37-yard line following the block of the field goal attempt. Cougars ahead 28-0 as we open the second quarter. Detmer straight back to throw. Good protection. Does throw. Completes it. Completes it to Chris Smith, who's tied in for a first down at the 24-yard line. Derek Odom, the tackler. And Detmer just right now doing about what he wants to, Blaine.
The defense of Utah, they're playing pretty much zone defense across the board and man-to-man, real basic coverages, and the BYU offensive receivers just have a lot of room to roam out there.
Utah 23-yard line.
And Ty Detmer doing an excellent job of picking that defense apart. Here you've got Stacy Corley on a sweep around the right side, and
they couldn't bring him down.
They had 5 guys attempt to make the tackle that time, and he just pulled his way through, used leg strength. And Stacy Corley does have a good set of legs on him. Just pulled his way right through each of those tackles.
Bob Bonifacio finally tackled him. But again, it was Stacy Corley who not only has speed, but as Blaine pointed out, he has strength. See, he pulled away from 1 tackle, pulled away from 2.
Nice stiff arm there. He just threw the defender to the ground. There's 3, 4, 5 men, and then he finally pulls and he sees the first down marker and dives beyond it to get the first down. That's just an excellent effort by Stacy Corley.
First down, Brigham Young on the Utah 12-yard line. Valdez in motion. Detmer looking to throw, swings it out to Whittingham, has some running room inside the 10, down to the 6-yard line. Little swing or flip to the left side. Sean Knox tackled Whittingham.
And BYU's not doing anything fancy, Jay. They're just running their basic offensive package, and Utah letting them pretty much go at will. Detmer comes out, makes a good read. They drop the linebackers off, so he checks it out to his swing man, Freddie Whittingham.
Nadi Valdez had cleared out through that area.
That's right.
2nd and 4 for the Cougars for a first down, 6 for a touchdown. Running play straight ahead. That's Whittingham. He's going to make it. Freddie Whittingham, like a bullet, off to the right side. Just slashed into the end zone for his 2nd touchdown of the game. Bonifacio covering on it. And that is his 6th rushing TD of the season. And BYU ups the lead to 34-0.
And, you know, you always wonder when a team comes in here and the official, a flag on the play that time. You always wonder when a team comes in here and really, or not comes in here, but beats BYU. Last year, Utah really laid it on BYU, and the Cougars have been waiting all year.
On the defense, penalty will be enforced on the kickoff.
Unsportsmanlike conduct on Utah.
And they're going to do that on the kickoff. But BYU's been waiting all year to get a chance to do this, and they're just super fired up this year. And BYU also wants to settle a score next week when they play San Diego, who also beat them last year.
Chaffetz kicks the extra point. That's 31 in a row this year, setting a new school record every time he kicks one. BYU ahead 35-0. This is the Blue and White Sports Network. Well, BYU will kick off to the University of Utah again, and there's a penalty marked off on the kickoff that resulted in unsportsmanlike conduct. So Coppin will kick from the 50, which means he'll kick it into the crowd. He did. Kicked it into the crowd, and Utah will take over 1st and 10 on their own 20-yard line.
There's a look at the scoring drive, Jay. There's 5 plays, 37 yards. They haven't been long scoring drives because of the turnovers and the block kick, but BYU just doing whatever they want on that drive again.
Right, call 1-800-IM for BYU beginning Monday morning and tell people where you were watching the game and how many people were there. We'd like to hear from you. 1st and 10 Utah. Richmond back to throw. His team down 35-0. Having to scramble, gets the pass off. If it's, yeah, it is caught. Nice diving grab by Darrell Hicks.
And Darrell Hicks that time just running a comeback route. That was a nice throw by Mike Richmond because he was moving to his right. Gets a little bit of pressure, so he rolls out to his right, and on the move he throws the ball just where it has to be. Kind of sidearms it out there, and just perfect because there was excellent coverage that time. You can't get any closer to the receiver than that, and the throw was right where it had to be, and Hicks pulls a nice catch in.
First quarter, BYU had 236 yards to Utah's 64. 2nd down and 4 for the Utes. They'll run for the first down, and they won't quite make it, thanks to Rocky Beagle of BYU.
Clifton Smith off the left side.
Ball carry was Clifton Smith. Slashing off the left side. He's short of the yardage for the first down.
was made by Richmond.
Wait a minute.
And Chad Robinson.
An official's timeout because Smith is injured on the play.
Official's timeout.
Looks like he just got a little bit of a twisted ankle. You see him limping there. He jumped up, and hopefully he'll be okay. A lot of times you can walk those little twisted ankles off, and we'll see what happens. But you saw him describing it there to the trainer. I just twisted it this way.
Detmer passed for 166 yards in the first quarter.
Mary saw a look at the third down conversions. Utah has not been able to do very well converting.
3rd and 1. They make it this time. Good second effort by Steve Abrams, who came in to replace Clifton Smith. He was hit at the line of scrimmage, fell forward for the first down. Norm Dixon got it. BYU wins this game, and San Diego State. They go to the Holiday Bowl for sure, and Cougar Club members can start ordering Holiday Bowl tickets Monday through Wednesday, November 27th through the 29th at the Marriott Center. First and 10, Utah. Richmond's throw for the sidelines. Nice catch. Up to the 48-yard line, and the little guy, Darrell Hicks, 5'11", only weighs 148, Blaine. He's playing well. Brian Mitchell covering him.
You can see he has great speed. He went in and leaned to the inside, went back to the sideline. Richmond let the ball go just as he planted his foot to cut back to the outside. Not bad coverage again, but a perfect throw, and Hicks uses his speed to get to the ball. The Utes, you see, are 3rd in the nation in passing, and Scott Mitchell was having a fine year. Too bad he was out for this game. I think the BYU defense wanted to face Utah at full strength, and but Mike Richmond doing a good job this drive.
The rush is on. Richmond gets the pass off, and it's caught at the BYU 41-yard line. He had to unload in a hurry, and who caught it? Darrell Hicks once again. Kind of the Hicks show right now.
It is. He's just about the only one that's caught a ball for Utah thus far in the game, and he's been the one bringing him in, and Mike Richmond goes out to him. They throw a quick route out, just a hitch route where the receiver looks back into the quarterback, and the quarterback gets it off before that pressure can get to him.
Ball was almost overthrown. Hicks made a good grab, leaping to get it. As we say, he's only 148-pounder. He's a junior. First down, Utah on the BYU 41-yard line. Brigham Young leading 35-0 here in the first half. Richmond back to throw. Throws for the sidelines. He's got a man down there. All the way to the 1-yard line. Unless he stepped out before that. That was Steve Abrams. And Utah is threatening to score right here. After BYU had dominated early in the game, Steve Abrams flying down the sidelines grabbed it.
And Richmond just is going to come out and look to the sideline. Abrams came out of the backfield, ran it out and up. We saw Matt Bellini do it earlier for BYU, and now Abrams is going to do it for the Utes. He's open, and just a perfect throw in between the zone on the sideline. And there was a penalty flag on the play, but that's going to be against BYU. There's a look at Steve Abrams. Well put together young man from Danville, California, 6 foot, 196-pounder.
So Utah has first and goal on the 1-yard line. Brigham Young ahead 35-0. Richmond, 7 out of his last 8 passes have been completed. Utah not scoring in the first quarter broke a string of 16 straight quarters that BYU's defense had been scored upon. So here it's first and goal on the 1-yard line. Cougars really load up that line, and the crowd starts to pump up the noise, and Richmond says, I can't hear, and the official's going to stop play. This will be an official's timeout this time, and I'm sure this week the crowd's going to play with that fact.
And he's going to talk the official. What the official is going to tell the quarterback is, you go ahead and start calling signals so that I can make a decision of whether or not I can hear it, because that's the way the rule works. If the official can hear the signals, then the quarterback has to run the play. If the official cannot hear the signals, then he can rule that the crowd's too loud. And I think that's probably what he told him. He probably said, okay, you go ahead and start to call those signals. And if I can hear you, you've got to run that play. And if I can't, I'll make that decision at that point.
And Coach Fossil calls the referee over. He wants to talk to him about that. BYU leading 35-0 with 9:40 to play in the first half of this football game. Abrams, as we say, was 1 for 7, or Richmond, I say, in his first 7 attempts. 7 out of his last 8, so he's now 8 of 15 passing.
And you know, the BYU fans might think, well, they're on the 1/2 yard line anyhow. So what if we get a penalty? It'll take it to half the distance to the goal line. It wouldn't make much difference at this point, and the crowd's really going to get into it now.
Yeah, they're not going to quiet down a bit. The ball is fumbled. BYU has the football. The Cougars stopped him. Richmond tried to get it himself, and it looked to me, Blaine, as if when he was hit, he tried to hand it off then, and it was knocked free.
We'll have to take a look at that on the replay because, you know, we saw the play earlier when Richmond had fumbled a snap on the play, and he tried to pitch it out anyhow, and they fumbled. And this time it looked as if he tried to hand the ball off almost as he went in. And, boy, just big mistakes costing Utah dearly here.
Blaine, he was not getting in.
No, he wasn't.
I mean, BYU had him stopped. They had him stood up.
Let's take a look at it from ground level and see if we can take a look at it. He goes up, and I think the ball just kind of flew out, and he tried to grab it again. But when you're in the trenches like that, deep in the end zone, toward the end zone, you've got to cover that ball up with two hands. Because,
and again, you know the old story, they may have been better off to run the play a minute ago instead of stop and talk to the official. 1st and 10, BYU. Freddie Whittingham, no gain. So the Cougars from Brigham Young have stopped him down on the 1-yard line. That's the second fumble. Greg Reynolds made the tackle. That's the second fumble that Utah has turned over in the game.
And you know, they turned over the first fumble they turned over, BYU went right down and scored. Then BYU blocks the field goal attempt. They go right down the field and score. Now here they get another fumble, and BYU's really taking advantage of those turnovers today.
2nd and 10 for the Cougars on their own 6-yard line. Detmer's going to throw from the end zone. Has some time. Here's the throw. Nice diving catch by Matt Odell at the 21-yard line. Covered by Sean Knox. First down yardage for BYU. Odell, the junior from Orem.
And Odell did a nice job of working Knox. He went down like he was going deep, got Knox to open his hips, and then went back to the comeback. The throw by Detmer was a little bit short, but Matt Odell dove out and made the catch. And there's a look at Matt Odell. A fine catch and a good route by Matt Odell.
His dad still holds some school pass receiving records at BYU. First down Cougars now on their own 22-yard line. They're leading 35-0. Detmer, delayed handoff. Bellini's going to go wide to the right, looking for some help. Dances around and is down at the 24-yard line. That play was not designed to go outside.
No, it looked like it was actually designed to go inside to the left, and Bellini just saw some daylight out to the right and chose to go that way, but that daylight closed quickly.
Mike Edmonds tackled him. That's the Utah quarterback. Playing today because All-American Scott Mitchell is injured.
There's a look at Detmer's stats. As you mentioned earlier, Jay, that has to do nothing but help his passing efficiency. He's completed almost everything he's thrown.
2nd and 8, Brigham Young, 24-yard line. Detmer to throw on 2nd down. Lots of time. Looking. Can't find anybody. Still dancing around. Here's the pass. It's caught. That's Smith. He got away. He might go all the way. He's to the 30. He's to the 20. Are there any flags? No. Chris Smith. There were 3 Utah players with him. 2 of them had him. He pulled free and took it all the way downfield for a touchdown.
And you can tack another 76 yards in passing on to Ty Detmer's total. That one going 76 yards. Watch the protection this time by the BYU offensive line. Utah only bringing 3 people. And when you give Ty Detmer this much time and you give those receivers enough time to work down there, they're going to make something happen. And this is Chris Smith's greatest asset. After he catches the football, he's got great strength and outstanding speed, and he breaks a tackle and goes all the way. 76 yards for a touchdown.
His 5th touchdown of the year, and Brigham Young leads 41-0. And remember, this is a turnaround. Utah could have gotten 7 points down there, but they fumbled at the 1-yard line. Here is Chaffetz to try another extra point for BYU. His extra point attempt is good, and with 7.5 to go in the first half of the game, Brigham Young leads Utah by a score of 42-0. BYU had 42-0. The Cougars have scored in all 6 possessions so far in this football game.
And that 76-yard pass play tops the best individual pass play of the year. The longest pass play from scrimmage before this was 62 yards from Ty Detmer to Chris Smith against Wyoming, and that one going 76 yards breaks that record for the year.
Kaufman kicking off. This one will come down at the 5-yard line. Edwards has it there. There will be a return to the 10 to the 15. Hit hard. and knocked off his feet inside the 15-yard line. So BYU pumped up in all aspects of this game. There's the last scoring drive. Dave Kennard, the first man to get in for BYU.
There's a look at the scoring drive. None of these scoring drives are taking very long. They've scored every time they've had the football. As you mentioned, Jay, 4 plays, 94 yards that time. 2 minutes and 3 seconds, of course, the big play, 76 yards to Chris Smith, who broke a couple of tackles en route to the end zone.
All right, Utah 1st and 10. 11 of the first 15 times they played, the Cougars were shut out. Look at where the end zone was, Wayne. Here's Richmond to throw. There's also a flag down. He's being chased. 2 flags down. He goes to the turf at the 18-yard line. But flags were dropped on the play. Bob Davis chasing him, got him. Also, Alima Fatisimano was in there as a linebacker right now, and he was right after him. It's like they had 2 men in motion.
That's what it was. Mike Richmond was smart to get down. I'll tell you what, if I'm running out there and I've got Bob Davis on one side and Fatisi Manu on the other side, I'm going to get down too, because those are 2 of the hardest hitters in the conference.
A walk off a 5-yard penalty. Here's the call.
We have an illegal shift against the offense. 5-yard penalty. Still first down.
1st and 15 for Utah. The Utes with the ball on their own 9-yard line. Brigham Young 42, Utah nothing. We're halfway through the 2nd quarter. Next week the Cougars play at San Diego State. Utah will be at home to close its season against the Air Force Academy. So here's a 1st and 15 play for Utah. Richmond dropping back to the 1-yard line. Throws. Almost intercept. That was almost a score. Hey, Dixon had a touchdown there if he holds on to the football.
Norm Dixon read that play from the start. He knew what was happening. He knew the man was going to be on an out route, and he just kind of hung back to set up the young quarterback, waited for the delivery of the ball, and then cut in front. Perfect position. Watch this. He's thinking touchdown right there, but Norm Dixon isn't able to get the handle. He knows if he catches that, he's in the end zone for 6.
Intended for Mike Anglesey. Dixon has 3 interceptions, 1 of them for a touchdown. So it's 2nd and 15, Utah at their own 8-yard line. They'll run it this time to the 13-yard line. Steve Abrams tackled by Bob Davis and Rocky Beagle. 3rd down play coming for the Utes. Well, Utah had the ball on the BYU 1-yard line. 1st and goal. Stopped the play because of the crowd noise. Went back, fumbled it. BYU got it and marched 94 yards.
And we never did give credit. Tim Adams, the nose guard, caused that fumble. He stood the quarterback up and caused that fumble, and then Bergeson recovered it.
3rd down and 10. Richmond to throw. He's going to go deep this time. Way downfield, and it's incomplete. Covering for BYU is Mitchell. The pass intended for Brian Rowley. Pretty good coverage by Mitchell that time.
That
2 good sprinters.
Excellent coverage. Rowley's a quick receiver. He was going down the sideline. You see Brian Mitchell with outstanding speed, and Rowley might have had a step as the ball left the quarterback's hand, but Mitchell used his acceleration to catch up, and you can see good position, looking back toward the ball, open to the receiver, and did an excellent job of coverage that time.
Here's Lamley to punt. Punts it very high but short. Fair catch, the signal, and Brian Mitchell grabs it at the Utah 44-yard line, and the Cougars will take over in very, very good field position, leading 42-0.
That punt, Jay, only 31 yards, and Brian Mitchell making a wise decision to fair catch that because there were white jerseys all around.
Up front for BYU, the tackles are Neil Fort and Mike Keim. The guards are Muhammad Elwanibi and Brian May. The center is Bob Stevens. Cougars made a change a couple weeks ago, shifted some players around. Running play, Matt Bellini. Matt Bellini has some room. He's to the 40. He's to the 35. He's down the sidelines. He might go all the way. Nope. They knock him out of bounds down around the 10-yard line. Matt Bellini for BYU. caught up with him down the sideline. Hey, he was a sprinter running right down the line.
And excellent blocking again. The BYU offensive line, and you just mentioned all of their names, they are absolutely dominating the line of scrimmage. You see Mohamed El-Wanibi out there and makes a nice block. Neil Fort makes a nice block. And then Bellini makes a nice run to cut it up down the sideline. But you don't do it any better than that as far as the blocking is concerned. Fort and El-Wanibi both pulling and knocking their men out, allowing Bellini to turn that ball up.
Bob Bonifacio caught him, bumped him out of bounds at the 11-yard line. 1st and 10, BYU. Detmer, running play. Freddie Whittingham met hard as he got the football. That time the Utes ready for him, and he's dropped right at the line of scrimmage. Might have lost a yard. The tackle by Greg Reynolds, who's considered to be the strongest player on that Utah team, a junior from Downey, California, and a returning starter. They lost a yard. 2nd and 11, BYU from the 12-yard line. Detmer has his team set. Nyberg wide to the left. Bellini in the slot on the left. Whittingham the setback. Detmer back to throw. Stays in the pocket. Throws it over the middle. Incomplete. Led Whittingham just a little bit too much. He made a dive for the ball, but it went off his hands. Would have been a TD. Garland Harris covering.
And Ty Detmer audible to that play, put Fred Whittingham over. Fred Whittingham lined up behind Detmer. Detmer moved him over to the right, called an audible, had him running a circle route out of the backfield, straight down the center. And you can see, almost caught for a touchdown, just a little bit too far out in front for Fred Whittingham to make that catch. There's a look at Ty's stats to this point. 14 of 18, 278 yards and 3 TDs. That's a full day's work for most quarterbacks. Ty Detmer's done it in one half.
And every game he started, he has thrown for over 300 yards. And he's almost there in the first half of this one. Touchdown. Touchdown. That's Matt Odell who caught it for BYU. Sean Knox covering. Odell came back and caught the ball moving back towards the line of scrimmage and caught it just in the corner before he went out of bounds. It's another TD pass.
It was a perfectly run route and a perfectly thrown ball. What happens is Odell goes down, fakes like he's going deep to the back corner of the end zone and cuts back for the front pylon. And Detmer's going to let the ball go on a timing route. Just as Matt Odell plants his foot to come back, he knows he has to throw it right to that pylon because that's where Odell's going to be. And that's exactly how you run that play, Jay. That is how they drew it up in the book for a touchdown.
2nd TD of the year for Odell, and Brigham Young ups the lead to 48-0 with 5:08 to play. And here is the extra point attempt, and it's good. Chaffetz has 33 consecutive extra points this year, and BYU leads Utah 49-0. This is the Blue and White Sports Network. 5 minutes to play in the first half of the football game. Brigham Young University is leading Utah by a score of 49-0.
And there you see what happened. There was a penalty on both teams there. A little talking between the two, a little pushing and shoving, and the officials called unsportsmanlike conduct on both teams, so they just offset each other.
Hoffman kicks off for BYU and kicks it into the end zone. Utah will take over 1st and 10 on the 20-yard line with the Cougars ahead 49-0 and 5:08 to go in the first half. BYU scored on all 7 possessions now, and the longest drive, Blaine, took 2 minutes and 41 seconds.
And you can see that one didn't even take that. 44 yards and 4 plays, 59 seconds, and Detmer throwing that little comeback route to the front of the end zone to Matt Odell, and Chaffetz kicking. Every time he makes a field goal now, or an extra point, it's a record, so adding to that PAT record. And there's a look at the stats. So far, you can see BYU dominating statistically as well as on the scoreboard.
Pretty good running play by Utah this time. A gain of 7, maybe 8 yards. Met at the line of scrimmage, but forced his way forward. That is Steve Abrams, finally tackled by Tony Crutchfield for Brigham Young University. Utah going with Mike Richmond, a sophomore, as Scott Mitchell was injured on the last play of practice. Was it on Tuesday or Wednesday?
The last play. If they had stopped practice one play earlier, Scott Mitchell will be playing in this football game.
2nd down, about 3.5. Again, they'll run the football, and this time there's not much gain. Steve Abrams going off the left side. Now flags go down, back away from the play. As the two teams, as can often happen in a lopsided game like this, now things are being said.
I'm sure that BYU reminding Utah about what they did to them last year, and a little get even factor. Utah's got to be upset with themselves for playing as poorly as they are. And Dennis Smith went out and was throwing a little bit of a late block on Norm Dixon.
A dead ball, personal foul against the defense, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
And that's what happens most of the time, Jay. Dennis Smith hit him with a little bit of a late block. Norm Dixon got upset, retaliated, and hit him. And usually the man that retaliates is the one the official sees. So Norm Dixon going to get a call on that one. And Coach Lavelle Edwards there does not like unsportsmanlike conduct penalties.
1st and 10 Utah on the Ute 44-yard line. Richmond back to pass. Some pressure. Rolls out. Looks downfield. Throws it downfield. Completes it. It'll go all the way to the 30. Down to the 25. And tackled at the 13-yard line. Nice little play by the University of Utah for a pretty good gainer.
And Mike Richmond made that happen because Dennis Smith was covered as Mike Richmond started to roll out. And as he started to attack the line of scrimmage, you watch him roll. He's going to start to go toward the line of scrimmage. Then those linebackers and secondary people have to start to think run. They took a couple of steps up. That allowed Smith to be open just behind those people and make the big play. So you've got to credit Richmond with his scrambling and attacking the line of scrimmage that time for that reception.
1st down Utah on the Brigham Young 12-yard line. The Utes threatened to score once before in the game. Well, they've had a field goal attempt blocked, and they fumbled on the 1-yard line. Now they're on the Cougar 12-yard line, 1st and 10. Richmond fakes a handoff. He's back to throw. Throwing into the end zone, and it is incomplete. Incomplete in the end zone, intended for Dennis Smith. Brian Mitchell and Norm Dixon covering for BYU, and I thought Smith was going to come up with it.
It was awful close. In fact, the BYU secondary had him sandwiched. You had Dixon and Mitchell out there, one on top, one on the bottom. You can see Dixon underneath, Mitchell on the top, and excellent coverage, and Smith still almost comes up with a football.
He has 13 touchdown receptions this year. And coming into this game, he'd caught 60 passes. 2nd and 10 from the 12-yard line. Crowd making some noise. Richmond hand signaling the change. He's back to pass. He's going to throw, and it is it cut for the touchdown? It is. So Utah has its first score of the game as Darrell Hicks, who's had an excellent football game, makes the grab, his 5th touchdown reception of the year, and the University of Utah has scored to make it 49-6 with 3:24 to play in the half.
And Richmond audible to this. He knew he was going to have man-to-man coverage. There were a lot of people up on the line of scrimmage for BYU, so he runs this quick out route, and you can see that Richmond actually threw that ball quite a ways out in front of Hicks, and Hicks accelerated to the football. Mitchell was close, but not close enough. Hicks brings that in. He's had a heck of a game today, Jay.
Well, the Utah team averages 30 points a game and 334 yards a game in passing. They have a good offensive scheme. The extra point attempt by Lamley is good. Lamley on the season is 25 out of 25 now, kicking extra points. Last week he had 4 field goals against New Mexico, including the game winner with 12 seconds left to play. And there's the score. Utah scored in a hurry on that drive.
They sure did. That big play to Dennis Smith set that up. Richmond passing in the first quarter, he had 40 yards. And they couldn't get that offense underway. And now in the second quarter, Richmond has 131 yards he had in the second quarter. So the Utah offense much more effective here in the second quarter. Had it not been for some fumbles, I mean, that time they went down there on the 1-yard line, they really should have scored that time. They would have a few more scores on the board, but the Utah defense and the BYU offense, the story thus far in the game, and BYU pretty much doing whatever they want on that Utah defense.
Brigham Young University to receive for the second time in the game. Back deep for the Cougars are Mortensen and Corley.
There's a look at the Ute scoring drive. 5 plays, 80 yards, 1:44, and capped off by that Richmond to Hicks pass in the left corner of the end zone.
49-7 Brigham Young University. Utah dominated this series. In fact, they once led 35 wins, 2 losses, and 3 ties. In the last few years, BYU's won 19 and lost 6. Here's the kickoff. It'll come down to Mortensen. He has it at the 4. He's a speedster. To the 15, to the 20. Gets outside to the 30. Out of bounds in the Cougar bench. at about the 35-yard line. So Brigham Young University will take over 1st and 10 at their own 33 or 34-yard line. Dean Whitkin knocked him out of bounds.
And every time BYU has had a return, that time with Eric Mortensen, it's looked like they've been on the verge of breaking it each time, and there's been one man left. Again, that was the case, and the one man brought Mortensen down.
Boyce wide to the right, wide to the left for BYU. Valdez, and the Cougars have Sean Covey in a quarterback, leading by a score of 49-7. Covey back to throw. Tries to set up a screen, gets it over to Tui Pelotu, but it'll be incomplete. Kind of had to lob that to Tui Pelotu, and he couldn't, well, he got it, but he was hit as he got the football. So the Cougars making some changes here.
Sean Covey went back that time, and when he was ready to throw the football, Tui Pelotu wasn't looking, so he had to pump it once, and then he had pressure. You see, he's going to look out here. When he wants to throw the football, Tui Pelotu's not ready to catch it, so he has to pump once, and then as he's getting hit, he tosses it out there. Utah read that well. They were over in the screen, and that play just wasn't going to go right from the beginning.
Lane, BYU has its entire second unit in the game right now, all along the line, too. Running play, Tui Pelotu busts his way out to the 42-yard line. You have Jim Edwards, John Garber, Kent Griffith, Devin Coggins, and Jim Balmforth up front along the line. Covey is the quarterback. Tui Pelotu is in the backfield. And we'll pick up others as we get time here. Valdez, Matsuzaki, Corley.
Like Matt Zundel at tight end. And that one just a quick inside trap that BYU runs so well. Peter Tui Pelotu, excellent running that, and cuts it up inside for a good gain.
3rd and 3, BYU at the 41-yard line. Another running play. This is Stacy Corley. He will not, well, he got away. Now they pull him down. He does not get the yardage for the first down, and this will be the first time in the football game that BYU did not score on a drive, let alone get a first down. Greg Reynolds and Frank Bonifacio making the stop for Utah. With 2:19 to go in the quarter, Kaufman will get in there to punt for BYU. Kaufman now averaging 42.7 yards a punt. He's doing very well. That's 3rd best in the WAC. Kicking from his own 25-yard line. The snap, he's got it. And the kick, booms it, drives it back to the 14-yard line. Taken there. The return, no return. Down to the 18. For the University of Utah, Levon Edwards grabbed it. But BYU covered him very nicely, and Utah will take over. Devin Coggins was downfield for BYU. A flag has just been thrown, and I think it's against Utah. An official standing around the Utah players suddenly threw a flag in the air.
And I'm sure something was said because he stood there talking to him and then threw the flag, but let's see what the call is.
BYU got a 15-yard penalty on the last drive. Here's the call. Unsportsmanlike conduct on Utah. Blaine, something was said to the official.
No doubt about it, because we were watching the official that threw the flag. He was standing amongst a group of Utah players. They were arguing a little bit, and then the official threw the flag. So
Cougars ahead 49-7.
Dead ball. Unsportsmanlike conduct against the receiving team. Half the distance to the goal line. First down.
First down for Utah. They've got 1:49 to go in the first half. Line of scrimmage will be the 9-yard line. So it is first and 20.
There's a look at the penalty situation. Utah 7 for 59 yards, BYU 3 for 30. And, that's about the only statistic that Utah's leading in this game so far, Jim.
It's a running play for Utah on first down. Ball carry was Steve Siglock, the senior fullback. Cougars have a lot of the second unit in there defensively now, too. But T.C. Manu made the tackle. Gained 8, so it's 2nd and 12 for Utah on their own 16-yard line. Here's Richmond back to pass. Some pressure. Swings it out to the left side. It's caught there. Upended at the 25-yard line. Catch by Mike Anglesey. Tackled by Norm Dixon. Clock rolling with a little over just a minute now to play in the first half. Utah faces 3rd down and 3. Capacity crowd. They broke the school record, the stadium record for attendance last week. They might break that today.
They could. This place is packed today.
3rd and 3. Utah going to throw for the first down yardage. Here's the pass, incomplete. Dixon covering for BYU, intended for Mike Anglesey, and Utah will have to send in the punter with 30 seconds left in the half.
And that time, Mike Richmond rolling out to his right. And many times that will happen. If you're rolling, the momentum of your body will make the ball go out a little wider than you wanted it to. And he just threw that a little bit too wide for Anglesey to grab onto.
Wayne Lamley into punt for Utah, kicking from the 11. For BYU, Brian Mitchell is on his own 34-yard line. Snap is there, and here's the punt. Oh, he booms it very high. Again, not too deep. Fair catch, the signal, and Brian Mitchell makes the catch at the 43-yard line, where BYU will take over 1st and 10. Only 21 seconds to play in the first half.
And again, the 31-yard punt, that was identical to the last one. He punted that 31 yards, again 31 yards, and no return. Mitchell having to fair catch that ball.
Cougars of BYU with the football. Sean Covey, the quarterback. Valdez and Matsuzaki, the 2 freshman wideouts, are in the game. Running play with Corley. Stacy off to the left side has a gain of about 4. Might be the last play of the first half. Kava'afu, the tackler, and BYU will start to walk off the field. They will just let the time run out and let the first half end on that note. So after 1 half of play here in Provo at Cougar Stadium, Brigham Young University has dominated the game, leading Utah by a score of 49-7. Half number 2 coming up. Brigham Young University and the University of Utah, traditional rivals. Of course, last year Utah won big in Salt Lake City, kind of shocked Brigham Young University. The Cougars went on. In fact, they lost the next week to Miami, but then won the Freedom Bowl, beating Colorado. Here's an interesting statistic in that first half.
And there's something that I have noticed change in the BYU offense the last couple of weeks. They've been very effective, as you know, in the last 3 or 4 weeks. The ball has been spread around very well by Ty Detmer to all of his receivers, and spread out in the different yardage areas. You can see most of the yards 10 to 20. The pass is going between 10 and 20 yards, but everyone getting involved in the offensive act, the receivers, the running backs, the tight ends, and that's made a difference in the effectiveness of this BYU offense.
And as far as running is concerned, BYU's used the run effectively in the game to set up their passing. They have some very good running backs in that team. Way out in front as we open the 3rd quarter. BYU won the toss, elected to receive. Utah is elected then to receive in the second half. Trivia question, Blaine.
Okay.
Who's the last team to beat Colorado?
Oh, I know that one easily. BYU in their bowl game last year in Anaheim, California.
And of course, BYU had lost to Utah, then lost to Miami, and then won this one. Here's the kickoff. Utah has it. 5-10, up to the 15, up to the 20. Knocked off his feet at the 24-yard line. So the University of Utah will take over 1st and 10 at that point. As Clifton Smith returned the ball, Dave Kennard made the tackle for Brigham Young University. And the Utes scored the last time they had the football. Or towards the end of, actually not the last time, but they had a pretty good sustained drive to score.
The last 3 or 4 times they've had the ball, they've been able to move it a little bit better. The first quarter, they looked very unorganized and very tentative, and now in the second quarter, they were much more a cohesive group.
First down, Utah from their own 25-yard line. And they'll run on first down, and they open it up off the left side for a gain of maybe 2 yards. The ball carriers Steve Abrams, the tacklers Norm Dixon and Bob Davis for BYU. Utah and Brigham Young. The Utes have one more game. Air Force, a home game next week. Cougars have one more game in league play. San Diego State next Thursday. But BYU hoping to be in a bowl. And hoping it's the Holiday Bowl.
I don't think there's any doubt that they would get a bowl invitation regardless of what they do next week. But they want to go to the Holiday Bowl. And in order to do that, they have to win next week.
2nd and 7. Still got the football. Quick pass. Caught at the 30, off his feet at the 33-yard line. Mitchell making the tackle for BYU. The receiver, number 81, Mike Anglesey. A little short of yardage for the first down.
Nice throw that time, though, by the quarterback, rolling to his right, a little bit of pressure in his face, and Mike Richmond lets the ball fly and gets it out there on target, even in the face of a good rush.
Angles, he's a junior from Salt Lake City, played at Olympus High School. Returning starter. Utah 3rd down, a yard to go for a first down at their own 33-yard line. They're going to run for it, and they're going to get it. They went outside this time. He's still on his feet all the way to the 45-yard line. And they crossed the Cougars up just a bit that time.
And Dennis Smith, number 80, the tight end for Utah, gets a lot of credit for his touchdown receptions. That time he did a great job of blocking. He was at the right side of the tight end. You see him seal off Dwayne Johnson right here, which allows the back to turn the corner. Steve Abrams able to turn that corner and get good yardage, but give credit to Dennis Smith, an excellent job of blocking that time.
Tim Adams, the nose guard, came over and made the tackle. First down Utah on the Utah 44-yard line as we open the third quarter. Right up the middle on a running play. He's to the 49-yard line. That would be a gain of 3. Steve Abrams again. Bob Davis for BYU closing the door. Well, Utah pretty much on the ground here at the start of this third quarter.
Trying to establish something, maybe get their confidence going a little bit, and they've gotten some yardage here rushing the football, and maybe they saw something at halftime that they thought they could take advantage of to maybe get their offense rolling a little bit here in the second half.
2nd and 7 for Utah at the Utah 49-yard line. Third period just started. Richmond quickly to throw, throws downfield, and it is. Is that caught? It is. It's a sensational catch. Rowley caught it back over Mitchell. Mitchell didn't see the ball coming. There's a flag down back upfield, however. A flag down back where the ball was thrown. Mitchell covering. Rowley made the catch.
Mike Richmond's just going to drop back and lob this one up to the outside to allow Rowley to run under it. Mitchell had great coverage that time, and Rowley just made a fantastic catch.
Fingertip grab. The foul is a personal foul on Brigham Young University. So it's first down for Utah. They'll take the play, and the penalty will be tacked on at the end. So Utah will be in scoring range again. They've been down there. This will be the 4th time. Once had a field goal block, once fumbled on the 1, and once scored. Kind of wakes up the crowd here. 1st and 10 Utah on the BYU 14-yard line to open the third quarter of the game. Brigham Young ahead 49-7. And the crowd is a factor right now. Richmond looked back at the official. Now he's going to run the play, however. He's back to pass on first down. Pressure's on. He's hit as he throws it. Throws in the end zone. Caught, but he's out of bounds. Nice catch, too, by Steve Abrams, but he was out of bounds when he caught it. Rich Kafusi was right on top of Richmond as he threw the football.
And watch this throw. This is an excellent throw because, as you mentioned, Kafusi was putting the pressure on. He steps up, throws it. He knows he's going to get hit, and it's right in between the zone where it needed to be. And awful close. He comes down on the line. A great catch by Abrams, and that was a heck of a throw, Jay.
As you say, he knew he was going to get hit as he threw it. So it's 2nd down and 10 for Utah on the BYU 15-yard line. Cougars had another defensive back. Now Richmond says he can't hear, but the official's not ruling anything. Nothing has been